All right, good morning. Good to see you guys again. We're going to continue talking about our exponential functions. I'm highlighting that a right there because that a is the y-intercept. We have to know that that a is the y-intercept. The thing that comes first here just is the y-intercept. I highlighted the number 1 because when I look at this graph, I see that dot on the number 1. Whatever that first number is what a is and what the y-intercept is. The b is the growth factor. That's what you are multiplying each step by as you're going from one number to the next, to the next, to the next. Notice we started with the number 1. We multiply it by 2 and get the number 2. So the first time we multiply it, we get the number 2. Then when I times 2 again, I get the number 4. When I times 2 again, I get the number 8. When I times 2 again, I get the number 16, and that would be up here somewhere. Notice, as we go farther and farther up, it jumps higher and higher and higher each step we move on this equation. Going backwards, if we divide by 2 to half, divide by 2 to quarter, divide, it gets closer and closer and closer to the number 0. That 0 is the horizontal asymptote. It is a line that this graph will not cross. This is something you're going to have to do, is to be able to graph these equations, okay? So speaking of being able to graph it, we're going to take a look here and again follow the same strategy. A is that first number here. That's that number 1. So I put a dot on the number 1 to show that that's my y-intercept. Everything I look at here gets multiplied by my growth factor, 3. I take my 1, I multiply it by 3, and I get 3. That gives me a dot here. That's the first time I've multiplied by 3. When I times 3 again, I get the number 9. That's the second number I've got, and it goes to 9. If I times 3 again, it goes to 27, which is way off up here somewhere. I can do the same thing about dividing by 3 and go to a third, a ninth, 27th, and so on. And you'll notice that that graph ends up curving up like this. That is going to be the graph of this exponential function. Once again, the first place I want to start is this first number here, that number 2 that I'm looking at. Sorry for the bell. We're looking at that 2, and that's going to be, again, our y-intercept. I take that 2, I multiply it by my b, my 2 that's right here. So I go, okay, 2 times 2 is 4, okay? First time I've multiplied is 4. The second time I multiply is 8. The next time I multiply after that is 16. Notice it curves up. As I divide by 2 going backwards, I go from 1 to half to quarter to eighth to so on. And you'll notice the graph curves up like that. Those dots aren't perfect because of how inaccurate the screen is, but you get the idea. We can also evaluate these equations when we are given a specific number to plug in for x. And we're going to take a look at this together. What I'm going to have you do is follow along on your calculator as I do this on mine. You'll notice on the first equation that we're looking at here, y equals 3 times 5 raised to the x when x is 3. We would go with 3 times the 5 raised to the, well, it says when x is 3, we put a 3 there, and we hit enter. That gives me 375, and that's what I'm going to put on that first blank, is 375. I'm going to do the same thing with the 6 times 3 over 4x when x equals 7. Oof, wrong settings. I need to go to the camera. So again, it is 6 times, I like the parentheses here, 3 over 4, close them, raised to the x, but x is 7. I hit enter. It gives me this fraction. I don't want the fraction, so I push the yellow button and then enter, and it gives me a decimal of 0.8. I'm going to go ahead and put the 0.8 here, and we'll go with that as the answer. Now, one more time, we're going to do this when we have y equals 8 times 2 raised to the 10th power. and that gives me 8,192. So I'm going to go ahead and go back over here and do the 8,192. That's how I can evaluate these kinds of functions, okay? Next, I want to go ahead and take a look at this graph and be able to find what the equation for it is. Once again, I want to start with my y-intercept. I see here the number 2. That's my a. That's y equals 2 to start. Then I notice my next pretty point is here. If I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is on the number 6. If I take the 6 and divide it by 2, I get the number 3. That means that this is 2 times that 3 raised to the x, and that is my equation there. Always raised to the x. And you can do that for each one of these. Like, look, I'll do it again. Y-intercept is 1. So y equals 1 times. What's the next number I get here? Well, the next number I get here is 2. The next number is 4. The next number is, I'm guessing, 8. Okay? The reason I say I guess 8 is because I notice there's a pattern times 2 times 2 times 2, and we can check it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can take each one of the points and divide it by the one before it. Okay? I can go 8 divided by 4 is 2, or 4 divided by 2 is 2, or 2 divided by 1 is 2. Whatever the case may be, I'm taking this point here and dividing it by the one before. The y values, obviously, is what I'm dividing. So I do 1 times 2 raised to the x, because that b is always raised to the x, and that is going to be my equation. I'd like for y'all to go ahead and get started on your worksheet.